In change initiatives for 20 years or so in your career, and many of them have joined the 74% of organizational changes initiatives that have failed, tune that level of ownership to the amount of belief. So if you have a small level of belief, then you would probably be best served with a smaller driver and a smaller bit of action. Maybe a shorter pilot to see if something actually works. Build your belief that that change or the things that you are doing will actually help you in the end. And if you have lots of belief, obviously, then you can also match your driver and action to that. So that would constitute that volume of ownership is very important to think about. So if you see this picture on the left, you have too much of the driver and action there to match the level of belief that you would have, which would then in turn lead to some of this toxic behavior we were talking before in the last slide.
It's every time finding the balance between all three elements that creates the highest value of ownership. So we hear you. We hear you now thinking, cool, so if I only believe, or if I only make my CEO believe in this, then we're all good to go and we've got everything covered. If it was this easy, we as in Bartwin and myself wouldn't be the people who came up with this, probably. The fact is, why it becomes so difficult is that your brain is playing a really challenging game with you. And in order to guide you through that, why it is so hard for individuals to change, and therefore in organizations as well, is if you see what your brain is doing, you will get a clearer understanding of why this is so hard. So first of all, motivated reasoning. This is one of the games that your brain plays. As soon as we start off a project or a change initiative and it either fails or it is a success, what we do automatically is we make a picture perfect version of our own behavior. So at the beginning of the presentation, when we first started, I asked you what to grade yourself in your previous projects, your productivity and effort. It wouldn't be surprising if you grade yourself higher than you would grade your team members. And that has often to do with the motivated reasoning effects. The game that your brain plays is basically, it goes into protection mode. So every single human being is processed and organized from a protection mode, a survival mode. With that, there is lots of stuff going on in your brain, and I won't go into details right now. But it makes sure that as soon as it starts to feel any sort of threat towards yourself, it will create a different version of the world, where it becomes your motivated reasoning, where your brain says, well, you've done a really good job actually, because you worked more than 40 hours last week. And your colleague, on the other hand, did choose to work from home at the moment that it was actually needed, that he or she was in the office. So what your brain is doing is making a reality around the fact that you tried your best, but it was somebody else who lacked. And that somebody else can also be something else. So also a department or a tool that's got you into trouble, that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be a person as well. This thing, and this is why it is so hard. Your brain does this in your subconscious level. So in your subconscious level, the whole activation around I detect fear, or I feel there is some sort of danger and I go into protection mode, we don't clearly notice that. if we would notice that, we will probably react in different ways than we are actually doing in the fundamentals of behavior and dysfunctional behavior that you show in a sort of situation where you feel fear, where you detect fear. If, and this is the other game